It is a day of celebration as it's the 18th anniversary of the 2007 Stanley Cup. Anaheim Ducks win. We'll get into that and more on this episode of Locked On Anaheim Ducks.
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome, everydayers. Thank you for making Locked On Anaheim Ducks your first listen every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. I'm Kyle Carr. I'm a lifelong Anaheim Ducks fan, and I have spent multiple years covering collegiate sports, including college hockey. But today we're talking about the Anaheim Ducks, and I just want to give a big thank you to all of you who have submitted questions and comments to the mailbag. If you have anything you want to ask or discuss in next week's mailbag, go to cartalksports.com/connect to submit. That's KJERTALKSSPORTS.com/connect. And you can submit any kind of questions you got about the Anaheim Ducks there. But today is a very special day. It is the 18th anniversary of the 2007 Anaheim Ducks Stanley Cup winning season. They finished the series out against Ottawa today, June 6th, 18 years ago to today. I know I just said that twice, but it is such a fun memory and just a great experience. Did I think the Ducks would have more since 2007? Absolutely. But things are starting to build up, maybe the 20th anniversary, just doing some Illuminati magic kind of stuff there. Who knows? That's only 2 years away. So would love to see that. Absolutely. But since I'm feeling nostalgic, I would like to talk about some players that I think that should come back to the team. I would love to have them back. But before that, and these are players that are actually still playing that could come back to the team. But before I do that, I want to go through basically memory lane of what the 2007 victory and that season looked like. So starting off, we'll go into the regular season, and then I'll get into the playoffs next segment, just depending on time. But we'll start it off with 2006-2007 season. The Ducks record that year was 48 wins, 20 losses, 14 overtime losses, and they had 110 points. What an absolute bomb of a season. They were killing it out there. That year, they scored 254 goals and gave up 198. So clearly outscoring their opponents by nearly 100 more goals. The points leader that year was Teemu Selanne. He had 94 goals. 94 points. God, Lord, 94 goals. That'd be crazy. 94 points, Teemu Selanne. He also led the team in goals with 48. Sorry, get a little dyslexic there. Leading in assists was Scott Niedermayer. He had 54 assists that year. Complete animal back there. Just the absolute domination example of what a captain should be on a hockey team. And J.S. Giguere, he was the backstopper for Anaheim at the time. I mean, better known as Jiggy at the time, was an absolute wall for Anaheim. Kind of a back and forth, going from Colorado back to Anaheim, kind of reconnecting with the gang. Teemu Selanne had gone off to San Jose. He comes back, getting the gang back together, and it ended up being a storybook ending for this crew. So his save percentage that year during the regular season was a .918 save percentage, an absolute beast. And he had a 2.26 goals against average. So not even giving up 3 goals a game. Ilya Bryzgalov was his main backup that year. I love Bryzgalov. If you've ever looked up any type of video of Briz, he's one of the most entertaining, hilarious guys you will ever see. He is the definition of a goaltender. And he was his backup, Giguere's backup, and he had a .907 save percentage and a 2.47 goals against average. So completely locked in, those two were. Just when you have that kind of goaltending going on from both of your tenders, the team in front of you is going to play with a ton of confidence. Just to look at the roster of that year. So this is going to be quite a few names. This was the roster that actually went off to the playoffs. Some of these names you'll completely recognize. Some of these names I totally forgot were on the team, and it's just like, wait, what? I totally forgot about that. But a lot of the names I'm sure you're going to remember and you're going to recognize. But this was the playoff roster. So all the guys that actually went and played in the playoffs that season. And that was Ryan Getzlaf, Teemu Selanne, Chris Pronger, Corey Perry, Andy McDonald, Samuel Paulson, Travis Moan, Scott Niedermayer, and his brother Rob Niedermayer, Francois Beauchemin, Dustin Penner, Chris Kunitz, Todd Marchant, Rick Jackman, Sean O'Donnell, Brad May, Kent Huskins, Aaron Rome, Ryan Shannon, Sean Thornton, George Peros, who's now the head of player safety, Joe Motzko, Drew Miller, Mark Hardigan, J.S. Giguere, Joe DePenta, Ryan Carter, and Ilya Bryzgalov. What a roster. A lot of those names brings back so many memories. I mean, Andy McDonald, an absolute talent back there. I saw someone on Twitter the other day said, I feel like people forget just how awesome and just how amazing of a scorer Andy McDonald was. He was a complete beast out there. Some of the best highlight reels in a Ducks sweater come from Andy McDonald. Corey Perry and Ryan Getzlaf were just kind of breaking into the league at that point. I think it was their second, they're in their third full season as NHLer. Teemu Selanne coming back. Travis Moan did great in the playoffs, bringing Scott Niedermayer over, then bringing Rob Niedermayer over, having the brothers. I mean, Francois Beauchemin, just a complete beast back there. And he still was until he finished his career and retired. Just talk about a complete bulldog. That's the type of defenseman that these younger guys need to recognize and kind of start emulating his game. And every player on that team, obviously they are Stanley Cup champions. They're all legends in my book, but just some great names to rethink about. Well, after this, we're going to go into the playoffs and just the statistics there and kind of what it looked like, the series they had, the teams they had to play, and the points leaders and all that. So we'll get into that right after this. Do you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. You get to have all your bank accounts. It helps me stay organized. I have a couple different ones, keeps me on track with my paychecks, my bills, where I'm saving money, where I'm spending too much money. It's all right there, easy to right in one spot. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. Now, getting into the playoffs, looking at the different points leaders and goaltending, little bit different names here than the regular season. The points leader for the playoffs was a young Ryan Getzlaf. He had 17 points in total. The goals leader was Andy McDonald with 10. Chris Pronger led in assists with 12. So just backstopping the defense over there and still generating some offense. Giguere, he played 18 games of the playoffs and won 13. He had a save percentage of .922 and a goals against average of 1.97. Brizgalov played 5 games. He won 3 of them, and he had the same save percentage as Jiggy, and he had a goals against average of 2.25. So locking it down. That's, old school playoffs back then. You don't see the high flying, high scoring playoff games like you kind of do nowadays. Definitely a lot more locked down back then, especially with the Randy Carlyle regime. Definitely a guy that didn't, no nonsense, no flashy stuff. Just lock it down, play strong defense, and you could see that held them down a 1.97 average, not even 2 goals given up a game, or on average a game, 2.25 for Brizzy. So not the best, not the worst. To get to the finals, the Ducks first had to face off against the Minnesota Wild. They beat them in 5 games. Then they took on the Vancouver Canucks in the second round, beat them in 5 games, so a 4-1 series. Then the hardest matchup of the playoffs came in the Western Conference Finals. This was against the Detroit Red Wings, and they took the Ducks to 6 games. So a little bit longer of a battle for Anaheim, and it seemed to be kind of the wall to get to the finals. It was that last test. You can, if I'm not mistaken, from watching the old video, this is going to age me, watching the old DVDs and VHSs of the end of the season where they come out with the Stanley Cup story and all the guys interviewed and stuff. They talked about that basically the Red Wings were going to be the test, and that once they got past the Red Wings, they felt like they could beat any other team on the East Coast. And so beating them in 6 games obviously gave the Ducks a ton of confidence heading into the actual finals of the Stanley Cup. And that was against the Ottawa Senators. And they were a huge team as well. This was not a team to really write off. The fact that the Ducks beat them in 5 games in a 4-1 series was pretty absurd, considering the type of team that Ottawa was. But Anaheim was just that much better. Just a complete all-star built dynamic roster. There were so many great variances, big guys, tough guys, skilled guys. It was the exact combination that you need to win a Stanley Cup. And like I said, they won in game 5, which was on June 6th, 18 years ago today. And just to kind of get a little breakdown of what that game looked like, the first period, the final score was 6-2. So it was a very decisive win for them on game 5. The other games were a little closer, but once the Ducks tasted that blood, they brought it and shut them down 6-2. It was 2-0 after the first period. Yeah, first period. I don't know why I got confused there. It was 2-0 after the first period with a power play goal from Andy McDonald, assisted by Ryan Getzlaf and Chris Pronger. And then a 5-on-5 goal scored by Rob Niedermeyer, assisted by Corey Perry. Then Ottawa comes in, scores the first goal of the second period, cutting the lead in half. But then Travis Moan made it 3-1. Ottawa comes back, scores again. But then Francois Beauchemin, he scores with just over a minute and a half. It was a minute and 32 seconds in the second to make it 4-2. Ducks have the lead. And then in the third, Travis Moan gets his second of the night. And then Corey Perry scores that 6th goal to ice the game away. And the Ducks basically got to just skate the minutes down. Obviously, you still got to play hard. You don't want to give them any chances. But just complete elation. I remember that Corey Perry, Getzlaf go straight to Jiggy and give him the biggest hug while everyone else is kind of meeting in the middle. Then the team comes together in the corner. Everyone's celebrating, tossing the sticks, tossing the helmets. It was a big, big win. You get Teemu Selanne, who finally gets his Stanley Cup after so many seasons. There was a ton of other guys that got there first, and just a glorious moment for Anaheim. And yeah, I honestly thought it was going to be the start of kind of not a dynasty, but I thought they would have at least a decent run after that and maybe get something else. But we did get some pretty good deep playoffs since then. We had what 6 out of 9 or 9 out of 11 years with playoffs or something crazy like that. We had so many postseasons after that the Ducks went deep. Ryan Getzlaf becoming captain, and we had Corey Perry deep. Now look at Corey Perry in the finals. He's got that OT goal today. That was in game 2, or got the game to OT. He didn't get the winner, but he pushed the game to OT with only 17 something seconds left. Just classic Corey Perry style. So yeah, a lot of history, a lot of memories coming out of that game and out of that entire season, entire playoff run. Watching all the pieces that come together. If you haven't seen the post-season documentary, I highly recommend in doing that. They used to, I don't know if they still do that, but they used to do a video that you could buy right after the season was up, with all these highlights, interviews, all that stuff. So go check it out. It's really cool to see the perspective, and they talk about building the roster, and you hear about the hiring and bringing back Randy Carlyle and bringing certain players and just how things shuffled together and how it all came together. And then they talk about going through the series and how they fought and where they thought things were going good, things were going bad. Just a really, really good put together thing. And I mean, who doesn't want to relive the best year that the Ducks have had? Because it is the only year that Anaheim has actually received the Stanley Cup. But speaking of nostalgia, getting into that historic moments and thinking of former Ducks and everything like that, there are some players out there that I think could absolutely come back and actually fit the play style that Anaheim has right now and could be an addition that the Ducks would actually like to have. And I'll get into that right after this. So yeah, as I said, great, great memories from that year, which was also the year that I graduated high school. So my absolute favorite year. Oh, thank heaven for '07. That's what we used to always say. And it was domination. What a just super fun year for me. But now thinking of these former Ducks that I want to get into, some players that should or could come back. Uh, there's one main one that I think would be an absolute piece for Anaheim and would fit this structure very well. Um, yes, would I love to have Brandon Montour? Absolutely. Would I love to have Josh Manson back? Absolutely. Do I think that's logical or makes sense for Anaheim? Not necessarily. I think the defense is kind of pretty set right now. They're off doing their thing. Cam Fowler, I don't really see him coming back. He seems like he's really settled in with St. Louis. So the defense, those guys, I don't think are who I'm targeting. The player that I'm thinking of that was dominant for the Ducks, he had a lot to do with playoff success, was a major goal scorer. He was part of the Swedish trio. I have the hat actually somewhere in my house, the Ducks logo with the Swedish flag, and it had their numbers on there: 67, 47, and 33. But the one I'm talking about is number 67, Rickard Rakell. I absolutely think he is someone that Anaheim could and should bring back this next season and conduct a nice little trade to get him back. Why do I think that? Well, just looking at his numbers with his time in Pittsburgh, and a struggling Pittsburgh at that, he obviously has not lost a step. He's still playing extremely well, and the style that the Ducks have, this youth, the speed, that playing on the rush, his ability to read plays really well, and his hands, his scoring prowess. He's an absolute dynamite player. Well, just to look at his numbers, he had 60 points in the 22-23 season. We traded him to Pittsburgh during the 21-22 season. So he goes over there next year. He's his first full year in Pittsburgh, has 60 points. And then he had 37 points in the 23-24 season, kind of a little slump there. But then last year, 70 points, 70 points last season. And it's arguably one of Pittsburgh's worst seasons that they've had in a while. And he was one of the top guys out there actually making things happen. And he's starting the 4th year of his 6-year contract that he signed with the Penguins. And that's only a $5 million cap hit. With the Ducks cap space right now, with the cap going up, that is absolutely manageable by Anaheim. I think with his skill, his speed, he's a dominant right winger. He can play extremely good hockey and physical hockey and can put pucks in the back of the net and also make nice plays, get the assists. I mean, if we need to have him up with, say, Cutter Gauthier and Leo Carlson, you get the Swedish connection there. That could be a dynamic right there to help with the scoring. But I see him really just helping out the middle 6 forwards, and he can kind of slide up and down the roster really anywhere, but giving him kind of bolstering him on that 3rd line or 2nd line would really help the Anaheim Ducks when it comes to depth scoring and having just a little bit more to throw at the opponents. And I mean, he's been hitting the rumor mill right now as well as one of the more likely trades of this offseason, just with the way Kyle Dubas is trying to build the Penguins. And obviously things did not go stale if he had a 70-point season after going 37 points to 70. That's an improvement. But just the way that Pittsburgh's cap is and the way that things are going with their team, it seems like they're kind of trying to basically do a rebuild, or at least a Kyle Dubas rebuild to the team that he wants. And Rickard Rakell is one of those names that's been coming up as someone he's trying to move for some pieces. So I think that Anaheim could absolutely use him again and bring him back. Who would I give up for him? It depends, obviously, what Pittsburgh wants, but man, that's the hardest part. Is I see them wanting something a little stronger coming back their direction. If they are giving up a player like Rickard Rakell, do they want someone like Zegras? Would they want a Nikita Nesterenko or maybe even Sam Colangelo? Maybe some of the defense players there. So, I mean, depending on where they're trying to go with their player, possibly Alex Killorn. I mean, that's an option. But yeah, I think when it comes to Anaheim trying to hunt for someone that they can use and trade that's a former player, it's always fun to bring players back and helps just revitalize the team a little bit. And I think honestly they're due. I talked about this in a previous episode that I would love to have Corey Perry come back and finish out his years out here in Anaheim, especially after the way he's playing right now in this Stanley Cup playoff run in the finals right now, basically giving me flashbacks of the comeback on Catella. Maybe that's why I'm thinking about Rickard Rakell right now. I think about that. He pushed it to overtime, just like Corey Perry pushed the game tonight to overtime. Unfortunately, Perry did not get the OT winner, but when he was on the Ducks against the Oilers, he got that overtime winner back in 2017. So maybe I'm just feeling nostalgic. Maybe I'm just feeling the the history right now, trying to bring back some big names, just some of the more fun times in Ducks hockey land. And I think it would be fun to have him back. I think that the team is a completely different team than when we let him go, and he would fit the speed and the play style, and he would mesh extremely well with how the Ducks are constructed right now. So Rickard Rakell, get him back. Corey Perry, get him back. Out of the other former Ducks that are out there, I mean, Adam Henrique, I always loved him as a player, but I think he's settled out there in Edmonton. I don't think we need Uncle Rico to come back. That it just doesn't really fit. I can't see where we could put him, or where he would fit in the roster. Trying to think of some other players that are still out there. Hampus Lindholm, he always drove me nuts. I know he was great, and his numbers show that he was a dominant defenseman even when Anaheim was struggling. But there's just something about his play style, his attitude. There was something about Hampus Lindholm that I was glad he was traded. He went to the Boston Bruins, one of my other favorite teams. But yeah, I don't really want to see him back at all. And like I said, I think the defense is pretty set for Anaheim right now. It's kind of crazy to me how many of the Anaheim Ducks players come here. We play them, we train them up, we develop them, and then they go off and have success elsewhere. It's almost like that movie Good Luck Chuck, where he dates a girl, and then the next person that they date is their husband, and they have a happy family and stuff like that. I feel like the Ducks are the Good Luck Ducks instead of Good Luck Chuck. Just trading these guys up, getting them set up, and then send them off to glory elsewhere. So we got to bring guys back. Let's bring them back. Let's have the opposite, where we're bringing guys and we're the ones having the success, because the Anaheim Ducks are ready. They need it. They're breaking out. They're coming up. Things are going to be looking good out here. With OC Vibe completing, it would be absolutely insane if in 2 years, which would be the 20th anniversary of 2007, if the Anaheim Ducks end up winning the Stanley Cup on that 20th year mark, you'll look back at this podcast and be like, man, Kyle Carr, that guy is an absolute genius. He was so smart. He must have had the Illuminati hockey gods with him or whatever, but that would be really cool. And the way the Ducks are trending right now, it could be very well possible that there is a 20th anniversary reunion game winner in the Stanley Cup, Anaheim Ducks on the trophy one more time. But a guy can dream, right? We'll see how things go. This year, obviously, the big step that they're going to have to take with Quenneville, and if they do take a big step or not, I think there's a lot of hype around it, and it's one of those, show it to me. You got to prove it to me first. And I think on paper, it's going to be a big jump this year, and there's going to be a lot of success. And if they do have that success that I think they're going to have, having a good playoff run in 2 years, I think is very manageable. I don't see how that could go wrong at all. So, once again, if you guys have any memories of the 2007 Stanley Cup run, send them my way at cartalksports.com, and cartalksports.com/connect for that form to send your questions or memories or comments. Is there an Anaheim Duck player that you want back? Is there someone out there that is active and playing that you think would be a great addition to bring back to the team? Let me know. Send it my way. But other than that, thank you for making Locked On Anaheim Ducks your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. I know those guys are recording right now after that crazy double overtime, so check it out. And you can find this podcast on YouTube as well. And wherever you listen to podcasts, go like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Connect with me at cartalksports.com/connect. And as always, I'm Kyle Carr. Be good out there.